Happy New Year, Be Insightful in Technology listeners. I hope you've all enjoyed your holidays and are ready to get back into routine around creating success for yourself and your loved ones. Welcome to 2024, and it's time to share the joy of planning for your career. A big question is, what do you want out of your career this year? Is it to make more money? Is it to step into leadership, to gain more time freedom? Or you just want to grow your skills? Let's talk about it. I think it's important to plan out or at least brainstorm ideas to set the intention for what you want for yourself. I encourage you all to grab a sheet of paper or pull up your notes app, not while driving, of course, come back to this podcast, and ask yourself a couple of questions to dig deeper into your goals for your career this year, and take the time to pause the podcast and answer each one. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first question I want to ask you guys is, what do you want from your career? This can be anything that allows you to bring some change into your life. If you've worked long enough and you can go based on the things you don't like, for example, if you commute an hour plus to work every day and it has taken away time from everyday life, perhaps you go for something in the area that allows you to have your time freedom. Or maybe you want to grow in your career and go after that big promotion. List out what you want, and it can be multiple things. This is just a rough draft. I feel like just a brain dump of ideas. So at this moment, go ahead and pause the podcast. Come back when you've written down a couple of ideas. The next question is, what will it take to get there? This requires research, and I don't mean just on Google. If you want a promotion at your job, the best thing to do is to typically consult with your manager and get advice from them. They know what it takes to promote someone up to the next level. It's okay to be transparent and wanting to grow and excel at what you do. Be open about the projects and tasks you're working on, what can be helpful. Have like a running list of the things that you're working on, so that way you can continue to update your manager on this. It makes sense to be able to showcase your work later, especially if you have a difficult time promoting yourself or selling yourself in a way. But that's just one thing. This will take a little bit of digging to figure out like what it takes to really achieve a goal. Say you want to go after a certification. If you don't have the skills already, typically that'll entail studying for it, figuring out what hands-on labs you can do, figuring out what type of experience you need to gain in order to do that, setting up the date, just setting out a plan. Like, what does it take to attain those goals? Again, go ahead and pause the podcast. It'll be a lot of pauses in between here, so I hope you're ready. But pause the podcast and come back when you're ready to answer the next question. If you're back already, the next question is, how do you know if something is for you? This ties into the first question of like, what do you want out of your career? Take a step back here and reflect on those winning moments in your career. Did you enjoy presenting, interacting more with your colleagues? Do you truly enjoy the focused work sessions, doing what you were hired to do? I'm all for people finding their passions, and sometimes you're not there yet, or when you got there, it wasn't what you expected, and you want to pivot, or you love where you're at and you want to zone in and improve your craft. It's okay. You just have to figure out if it's for you. Now that we have a bit of a rough idea of what you're into and what you want for your career, let's get specific about it. It's time to set some SMART goals. And if you know what SMART goals are, you already know where I'm heading. And if you don't, I'm going to explain it to you. S stands for specific. You want to make sure your goals are concrete, something tangible, something that is, you know what it looks like when you've achieved it. M stands for measurable. The goal has an objective that is easily measurable and everyone can understand it. A stands for attainable or achievable. The goal may be challenging, but you can achieve it with the resources that you do have. And R stands for relevant. Is this goal meaningful to the overall big picture that you have set for yourself? And T stands for timely or time bound. The goal has a deadline or a timeline of progress and milestones. So this is not just a random idea. This isn't just a dream. This is a plan that you have set for with everything that it entails to meet this goal. I like this method of planning because it allows for you to really think and set a plan that helps you see the end result you're aiming for. It allows you to really think through it. So we're gonna go through an example, and I want you guys to be able to set your own goals. Look at your list of ideas and wants, and let's start with one of them and run through the SMART goal system. So I'm gonna give an example. So say you'd like to learn how to code. Learning to code is like very broad. Let's dive a bit deeper on it. So running through the first set of the SMART goals, which is the S, what language do you want to learn in? That's like the first question. Sometimes you have to ask yourself what, when, and why to get the specifics of it. So let's say the what is I want to learn Python. That's the language that I want to learn. When do I want to learn it? I want to learn it in 3 months. Why do I want to learn it? This example could be you want to be able to learn how to code a specific program. Say you want to be able to learn how to code. I'm going to use some network engineering examples because that's what I am. Say you want to learn how to code a script to be able to make network changes on a plethora of devices. Let's go through that. All right, so goal has to be measurable. So I already clarified that I want to learn Python. I want to learn it in 3 months, and I want to be able to make network changes with a script. So it has to be measurable at this point. So the specifics can kind of guide you through the rest of these if you haven't noticed already. But what do I want to accomplish by learning Python? I want to be able to code a script and automate network changes. The next step is A, which is attainable. Can I do this with the resources available to me? So when you're learning how to code, a simple thing would be do a Google search. What resources are available to you? Sometimes the resources may not just be tangible like videos and books or blogs that have actual, technical resources. Sometimes you got to go out and reach out to people. So if you're looking at your own goal, you can gauge whether it's going to involve you going to talk with more people, interact with just different sources. But knowing what's available to you will let you know if this is really attainable. So for learning how to code in Python to be able to create a network script, there are plenty of videos and website and books available. But I know for me, if this is a goal for me, I know that it's easier for me to pick one source. I enjoy structured courses because it lets me know that there's a beginning and an end. And typically they'll give you like a syllabus that'll lay out what you'll be able to do by the end of the course. So say I go ahead and pick a course. And sometimes courses I need a tangible object on the side. So say a course and a book are my 2 resources to learn Python. And another thing could help is like how often will I be working on this? So I said 3 months, but 1 hour a week may not be enough for me to achieve my goal. So let's go down to the next ones and then we'll talk about this. So R stands for relevant. Does this matter to the overall big picture? I'm on a mission to take on a DevOps perspective of my work, and learning to code will allow me to put the development into operations. Does this fit into my life is another question that you may need to ask yourself. A lot of us are busy with the day-to-day, and there may need to be a couple things that you sacrifice or move around or something to compromise on in order to achieve this specific goal that you have set for yourself. So really ask yourself, like, does this make sense with what I'm trying to do? You may not want to waste time on something that's not going to help you. I was listening to a podcast earlier about like performance feedback, and it was saying how just because I can make a good beef brisket doesn't mean that it's gonna help me in my career. So it's something about making sure that it aligns with your goals. And T, timely. What is the deadline? How much time will I dedicate to learning? So I mentioned 3 months. I want to be able to do this thing. How often am I going to put aside the time to actually go through and learn this? So in this time, this is where you create your plan. It's easier to see a week by week view in a 3 month timeline. If you guys haven't read like 12-week year, it goes through like, what if you only had 12 weeks in a year and that's all you got? Like, we're at the beginning of 2024. Everyone's creating their New Year's resolutions. They're evaluating their goals. They may be reflecting on the things that happened last year and what to do better this year and what to change. Maybe taking these first 3 months to really build that habit, that system. We'll talk more about it a little bit later in the coming podcast. But being able to set aside that time to achieve these goals will be the most important part after you have the specific thing in mind. So the goal that I was using as an example can be displayed as to learn Python to create network changes by using a guide to learning Python and Python for network engineers to build a foundation in DevOps in 3 months. And that's just for this. Like, that's just an example for me. I already have more so a operations background, and I want to step into more development by taking on Python as my first real programming language. So for you guys, we each have an area of need to make this go into something functional and achievable, and I know what I'm going to use to do it. So in that sense, know what you're going to do. It doesn't require a lot of, I don't want you to go into analysis paralysis where you're taking in so much information and not doing anything with it. The SMART goals helps you really align with that and kind of keep it as your go-to. And I really suggest, like, if you're in the process of learning something, sometimes you have to stick with one material to continue out before jumping to so many different things. So I want all of you to take 3 of your ideas and run it through the SMART goal system. 3 ideas, your top 3. Go ahead and run it through SMART system. Pause the podcast as you write them down, then come back. Now that you're back, I really hope that you guys went through the SMART system, and if you didn't, I need you to go through and do it. For those that did it, how did it go? Since you have them written down, continue to look at them week by week. Create a weekly plan, daily if you have to, on the action steps that will help you achieve these goals. As James Clear has mentioned in Atomic Habits, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. This means that it would be beneficial to create a system or a routine to allow you to achieve your goals a lot easier. I know for myself, if I say I'm going to do something like exercising, if I go straight home after work, I'm going to fall asleep. But if I bring a change of clothes with me, I'll head to the gym and I'm putting myself in the environment of people doing what I want to do. Then I end up working out. I can build a routine on that, and it just makes it easier for me to continue meeting that goal or that action step to achieve my milestone. As this year is just begun and you're working on yourself, I hope you continue to listen to the podcast. What you can expect from Be Insightful in Technology is more talks around new and exciting tech topics that come about, more interviews, and career advice that you may need as you go through this journey. One big thing that's happening this year is I'm bringing on a co-host to bring a different perspective to the table, and I'm excited. He's been on the podcast a couple of times before, and I think you guys would enjoy the insight he brings. So as far as 2024, I'm welcoming this year with open arms and a desire for growth opportunities. Life is 10% of what you make it and 90% of how you take it. And I'm taking it with an openly positive attitude and mindset. If you know someone that needs this information, share with them. Subscribe and rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and connect with me on LinkedIn for more updates and even just to reach out for advice. Check the show notes for all the links. And thank you guys for tuning in to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to Be Insightful in Technology. May 2024 bring a year of positive change within you and around you.